the little fundamentals of life, the minerals, the fungi, the microbes, the phytoplankton, all of these little bases are things that we don't consider but are critical for us to look at and to nurture if we are to survive on this planet. A few weeks ago, the Global Earth Repair Convergence in Washington State brought people from all over the world to exchange ideas on how to restore the natural systems that allow life to flourish on this planet. Soils and ocean pastures are treasure chests of biodiversity, nurturing life both on land and in the sea. And we have damaged them so extensively that they now function at a fraction of their actual capacity. But restoration is possible if we, the people, rise to the task. Today, we've assembled our own small convergence. Jean Dilou ignited the spark for the creation of eco-restoration camps around the world, bringing people together in communities to restore water cycles, revitalize the soil, and in the process, recover the understanding that we belong to nature and to each other, and that we can reverse even the most degraded landscapes.
Just a human being.
Alex Carlin is a journalist and songwriter and musician who travels internationally using his music to bring awareness to the possibility of restoring ocean pastures. And from our own team, we are joined by climate scientist Paul Beckwith, whose wide-ranging research is always an invaluable resource. Welcome to you all. Let's get to it. John, you and Alex were both presenters in the conference. I was there virtually. What do you think was the most valuable thing about that gathering?
Well, I think that it's been, over the last few decades for me, very lonely to work on restoration for all that time. And just to see that people all over the world are excited and interested in doing it is important. And the reason that the ecosystem restoration communities, I think, are necessary is that they're the bridge between conceptual and physical. So if we talk about it, we're not going to change it. And if we act to restore the hydrological cycle or restore the soil fertility or restore the biodiversity, that is our essential central task. But at the same time, we're going to have to transform the economy, because the economy now is focused on extracting and manufacturing and buying and selling things, and it's mostly wasteful and unsustainable. And we're teaching people to compete against each other, which is a really scary process when we have over 8 billion people. And we're just saying, well, some people are going to lose and they're going to just have to die in the street, apparently. So we should really tell the truth that all living beings have a role to play in a functional, symbiotic living world, and that who among us can say, you know, you're not needed, or your species is not needed. That's grotesque. So we're at a place where we can go to the next level of human consciousness. And I think that's what we need to do, and that's what I see happening. So that's what I think is the best thing about the convergence.
Well, I was there virtually, and yeah, it was incredible. Also, the recordings are available, so I'm continuing to be there. Alex, you were there too, and I think you presented some stuff about. Yeah, I know you're very interested in the ocean pasture restoration. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I did 3 panels, and I wanted to mention that Michael Pilarski and Richard Lukens, the guys who are really at the forefront of this conference, I think they did an incredibly smart and good job of bringing the indigenous people to be the center and the heartbeat of this event. They were always there with their messaging and their their personalities and their communications, and they just gave the whole thing a sense of something that connects to the planet Earth. Like, I go to every United Nations climate conference, by the way, for 14 years, reporting for Center for Media and Democracy. And last year was in Brazil. And what I learned from the indigenous people there was their whole lives are about what are we going to do for Mother Earth today, and just in terms of doing the right thing and restoring the health and the vitality. These people were just emanating and evincing and just extruding, this ethos and this sort of way of life and way of thinking. So I'm just saying the leaders of this conference were really on target and on topic by making sure that was the center heartbeat of the whole thing. And then, of course, great people like John Liu. I remember he gave a keynote speech that was very inspiring and very eloquent to the point of, where we're going. And so what I was bringing, I had 3 panels. Michael told me, Skeeter, the main guy, he says, Alex, I want you to do 3 panels. Report from Russia, because you live there. What's going on with Earth repair in Russia? Report from Africa, because you're all over Africa doing your project. What's Earth repair in Africa like right now? And then the 3rd panel was purely the phytoplankton and the ocean, because if you look at us from Mars, we are the blue planet. We are the ocean planet, and I would sacrifice my life for the Amazon, but there's 20 Amazons underwater, equivalent of biology and life, and certainly photosynthesis and oxygen-producing lungs of the planet are really in the ocean more than on land. So I'm bringing to the table things that people don't hear about that much, which is the ocean pastures, which I think needs a little explanation, because we've spent 10,000 years getting a handle on land pastures, right? But we're only now really beginning to understand and develop the concept of tending, being good tending, taking care of the ocean in the proper way. And we have a situation now where the plankton are down 50%, 70%. They're way, way down. And the plankton are the absolute essential part of the ocean life. And the reason they're down is not plastics. It's not pollution. It's not, Japanese trawlers or any of that stuff. Those are all can be bad things. But the real reason, the main reason why plankton is in deficit is ironic. It's because humans have put in 1 trillion tons of CO2 in the air since the Industrial Revolution, and that caused the source of plankton sustenance to drop, and because that's what we call dust fall. On a land farm, a farm needs rainfall, but the plankton need dust fall. That's when the wind blows nutritional dust across the ocean for millennia, and we've taken that away. So one of the things we talked about at the conference was we have a plan called 100 Villages, where we say we don't need Elon Musk, we don't need rich people or government, we just need 100 fishing villages, decentralized, to go out about 200 miles offshore to where their plankton eddies and ecosystems are, and put back 1 teaspoon of mineral-rich dust for an acre. A teaspoon per acre is all you need, parts per trillion, to bring back very quickly, cheaply, easily, safely, perfectly, and it's been done before. It works great. So this is our story, our good news story of eco-restoration, but in the ocean. And something that I think John was talking about in his speeches is the context that people have a tendency to think it's hopeless and we have not much chance and this sort of thing. But we're bringing to the table something that really moves the needle tangibly, quickly, in a big way. For example, I'm in Africa a lot. I'm talking to a 10-year-old African kid, and I'm saying, what's your life going to be like in 30 or 40 years? And 90% of the movement in climate are doing a great thing called emissions reduction, but they say, oh, just get rid of those cars and oil companies fast enough and we'll be okay. That's not true, because the 1 trillion tons in the atmosphere take 1,000 years to go away by itself. So we're bringing to the table this good news. It's not hopeless. There's plankton taking out significant amounts of CO2 out of the legacy amount out of the air, making a huge dent into what we put in every year, and the acidification of the ocean, which in a way is more urgent than the global warming. The fact that if we don't do anything, there won't be any fish in the ocean in your lifetime.
Yeah, it's exciting. The CO2, instead of acidifying the ocean, can be feeding the plankton, and the plankton can be seeding the clouds, which can be reflecting the heat. The oceans are heating ferociously. So,
Right.
it's a very interesting process. Paul, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I mean the soils and the oceans are key carbon sinks. And the oceans absorb about 26% of global emissions, which is huge. So we're talking about just slightly increasing that number by things that Alex is talking about. I'm personally very excited about these ocean eddies, which have, by the physics of a clockwise eddy in the northern hemisphere, there's water downwelling within the eddy. We're talking about eddies maybe on the order of 100-kilometer diameter. There's water downwelling. And if we had plankton growth, that would be downwelled into the ocean, absorbing carbon. And people need to distinguish between CO2 that's just absorbed in the water column, dissolved in the water column, which results in the acidification, and CO2 that's captured by phytoplankton and then increases the growth of all the way up through the ecosystem, through the food chain. That's organic carbon, which doesn't cause ocean acidification. So those are two key things. I just want to ask if anybody here has read a book called The World Without Us by Alan
Yes.
Weisman, which is a fascinating book because the premise is humans disappear overnight. So then it looks at time, like what happens in a week, in a month, in 10 years, 100 years. And nature comes back and everything's restored. I think that's a fascinating book. And it shows how quickly things can happen. So both Alex and John are working at the forefront, I think, of trying to accelerate this process of the restoration. So, I mean, the conference sounds like a great venue for people to discuss this. So very exciting stuff. And there's a lot of positive messages from this, and we hear too much doom and gloom these days, right? So,
John has a eco oasis project that I think is already happening in various places in the world. The idea of the soil being kind of if it's a sponge, it can hold the water. The water doesn't just come from the heavens. Water also is stored underneath, and restoring that sponginess and that fertility of the soil is critical. The ocean pastures, are critical in the ocean, and soil is critical on the land. Do you want to tell us more about the eco oases?
Yeah, I would say that we're really looking at symbiosis and we're looking at evolutionary succession. So this has occurred over time, and some of the things that humans have been doing has been reversing the basic trends. So the basic trends that come from evolutionary succession are accumulative. So we have always more biomass. And so this is not just soil, it's what grows in the soil. It's the living plant material. And it's the habitat for microbial and fungal communities and insects and small rodents and so on within the pedosphere. And what we find with permaculture or biodynamics is that living soils, the pedosphere, which is on top of the lithosphere, is the important part. And this is making mineral nutrients bioavailable to life. And when we have the holistic kind of living system, it's breathing in symbiosis with each other. It's nurturing, and it doesn't exist without the other. We're not even a single species. We have gut bacteria without which we wouldn't even live. So we're in symbiotic relationship with all these life forms, and we need to understand that. And then the other side of this is sort of philosophical in a way, because we're here physically now, but we all know that we're going to die as individuals, but life goes on. And so this means we're really talking between what is finite and what is infinite. And when we consider, are we physical and hope that we're going to praying that we're going to have a spiritual experience? Or are we actually spiritual beings who are experiencing physicality for a lifetime, for a short while. And when we look at it this way, we realize that we've missed what is our central purpose in life. With this materialism, we've been small creatures gathering little trinkets to adorn our nests or something, but it's meaningless, because the true value of what we're experiencing is that this is the only planet we know of that has an oxygenated atmosphere, a fresh water system, fertile soils, and amazing biodiversity. And then this begs this question: what are we doing here? Because if we're acting like we're parasites, we're epiphytic parasites just trying to suck the life out of our host, and then our host dies and we die, that's kind of not a high level of consciousness. I've been a professional observer my entire life, and I didn't start by observing ecology. I started by observing politics and economics and culture. And what we're seeing is very destructive. I was there in Moscow during the collapse of the Soviet Union, and my feeling there was like, oh my, if this could happen, then the West is actually in danger of the same kind of rapid collapse. And so I think our duty is to really understand where we are in human history and what is, I've called it, and Thomas Berry has too, the great work of our time. We're called to do something which is extraordinarily difficult. Humans have not done this before. They have not woken up and said, oh, everything we were doing is wrong, and we better go in the other direction, and understand that what the indigenous people are saying is wiser and more evolved. And now we're in a place where if we don't understand this, we are seeing the changes in climate, which are unnecessary, changes in extreme and erratic weather events, which are unnecessary, and the extinction of vast amounts of life. And in many cases, we don't even know what is the purpose of those species. They have to have some reason to be there. They're in some relationship with all of their life forms, and we don't even seem to care what they are. Well, that's not a very high level of consciousness. So here we are, we have this opportunity, we know enough to know we really got to get in another line, and then we come to this question about the economy. Is the purpose of life to go shopping? And it doesn't seem like it is. It seems like that's a really stupid idea. Gathering material possessions to ourselves from an economic point of view doesn't even make any sense. The only way that money works is if you circulate it. So if you hoard money, and we have billionaires and then desperately poor people, the desperately poor people can't buy anything if they don't have any money. And the hoarding of resources from the earth is ridiculous.
Well, we all have too much accumulations in the northern hemispheres and in the rich cultures. And the rich people, it's astounding how much money rich people have. They have really taken almost all of the wealth of the world, and they have also succeeded in polluting, to a large extent, what's happening in the world. Alex is a musician, and I think that, music is, as you say, John, this is the understanding of our spiritual life, our internal life. Music is kind of a universal language that, Alex has been going to Russia and to Africa and trying to make people sing, which is, sing together, which is pretty critical in this time, spiritually.
Well, it's also part of our campaign called the Africa Climate Ban campaign to propel a movement of millions of Africans. We've already played in 4 countries. So we do the music. I have a fantastic band based in Côte d'Ivoire, French West Africa. already played in Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Ghana, and Benin, and we're gearing up for all the countries of Africa once we have our viral video of the song that's Africa will be the leader. And this is about a movement. You know, it's real stuff to say where we don't need your money, we just need the consciousness, as John is pointing out, that we need to restore the plankton, in a word. And I just want to mention that, you know, as we said, I would die for the Amazon, but we've lost 13% of the Amazon, but we lose an entire Amazon of plankton pastures every 5 years. An entire Amazon.
Pastures.
Yeah, ocean pastures. Well, the ocean pastures, we lose an entire Amazon equivalent every 5 years. We've been doing that for 75 years. So we've lost like 15 of the 30 Amazons we've had underwater, and it's so easy to bring them back. I want to make a strong point here that there's no opposition in the water to doing the right thing with the plankton. And it's not only pulling out CO2 and not only dealing with the acid, it is creating some really important point here, which is about the clouds. It injects and makes those clouds more reflective, more albedo. In fact, the recent science is really astounding. It's saying that CO2 greenhouse effect, right? There is a whole science there of how many watts per acre that James Hansen talks about, and important things. But what the plankton does when it restores the albedo to the clouds and the reflectivity, it's actually much more significant for global warming. Like on a huge magnitude level, it does much more than the whole dynamic of taking out CO2 to reduce parts per million for the greenhouse effect. It's an unbelievable return on your efforts. When you're nice to the plankton, give them a teaspoon per acre, you get this amazing result. And it's not only the reflective albedo, it's the moisture, it's the rain, it combats this incredible, all the fire hazards in California. It'll just restore that moisture to the land. This is cleaning mercury, bringing cold water up every day from the bottom to the top surfaces. It's amazing what this world of plankton is representing, and that's consciousness.
Yes, I just wanted to say that there are over 8 billion people on the planet right now, and they're doing a tremendous amount of damage. And what we see is not a simplistic scenario. We're seeing people who are running around. I'm in Los Angeles, look at the automobile situation, or look at the hydrological situation. They've completely covered all of the streams. There's no way to infiltrate and retain moisture. They've destroyed the concept of the estuary. This is quite a serious mistake. And the salt waters and the fresh waters mingle at these places. And now these are toxic places, and they're the nurseries for life. So what I think about this plankton and adding iron dust is that it needs to be studied. It needs to be understood. And it's not the only thing. It's not a singularity. We can't
We're having a conversation here, right? I just want to correct you a little bit. I agree with it, 99% of what you're saying, but it has been studied. I could send it to you, John. 40 years of study. It's been studied to the max. It's a misconception. I wrote an article called "Misconceptions Should Not Stop a Good Thing." And it's been studied. I'll send it to you. We're not in the stage of let's do another 10 years of studying this stuff. No, we're not there. It's just not true.
Alex,
it's not true.
I'm saying is not. I'm saying that there's not a singularity.
I didn't say there was. I never did. I said everything you're saying is fantastic and wonderful, and I support you 100%. And everything you're saying is great. I'm not saying it's a singularity. I'm just saying I'm bringing good news to the table. That's all I'm saying.
Well, then you've done it. But
thank you.
It's not one thing that's going to save humanity.
When did I say that? When did I say that, John? You're misconstruing me. But I'm just telling you, it's just a good thing that very few people know about. So I'm just sort of spreading the word, that's all.
Well, if I could finish my thought here, basically, there's a lot of work we have to do, and it's fundamentally different than a singularity where we're going to do one thing and it's going to make everything right.
I never said that.
Okay,
Don't put words in my mouth.
let me finish. Don't interrupt me. What is necessary is a transformational change in human behavior, which includes every possible thing that we could do to do it correctly, as opposed to latching onto single things. And this is, I've seen in the past, when I started to see that you could restore ecological function to historically degraded landscapes, then there was a kind of a backlash to say, well, oh, we could continue to destroy things and then fix it later. Well, that's not true at all. We need to act. But we need to do this in a comprehensive way, and we need to have everybody understand it, not demand that other people do what they don't understand.
Well, I'm certainly not saying that. So you're implying that. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but you seem like you're implying things that I wasn't saying. That's okay. I love everything you're saying, John. You're totally right. Okay, I agree with you. I'm just adding something. That's all.
I'd like to just step in about the time element, because a lot of people seem to think that we can take care of things before massive wrenching changes occur on the planet. And that's not the case. I mean, I'll give a couple examples. One is, I'm in Canada. We have the boreal forest covering vast areas of northern Canada. These forests are greatly stressed. The amount of acreage burned by wildfires from 2020 onward is about 5 times or even worse than it was in the 70s and 80s. And because the forests and ecosystems are so stressed and the temperatures are changing so quickly, we're getting mass migrations of species on the planet. Some of these species are carrying viruses and pathogens that are multiplying more in a warming world, so human health is becoming more affected. But the biggest wrench in the climate system, of course, is the ocean currents, the AMOC. There's been a lot of noise recently. And if the AMOC fails, basically our ability to grow food on this planet will be completely compromised, because the climates that are there now that allow us to grow our crops, plant our crops and harvest and grow our crops and provide food for eating to this 8 billion people plus will be severely compromised, because those areas will no longer have the right climate to grow this food. That will have moved somewhere else, but then there's no soils in that somewhere else that have developed over millennia to be sufficient to grow food in these new areas. So we have a huge problem coming down the pipes very quickly. And I just want to remind people that time is of the essence. So we don't have the luxury of time in this issue.
Great point. Great point, Paul. You're totally on target.
Certainly true that if 20 years ago we were talking it would be different, and 50 years ago it would be very different, and right now it is what it is, and we are at the edge, and we all recognize that. And the geoengineering aspects of things, and people are saying, let's do these things. We're going to have to even have them ready for disaster happening. Even if we don't do them right now, we have to have it all ready to go. John, you work in villages all over the world, and Alex, you're trying to get 100 villages to run out and with their boats and put minerals in the sea. We're working with loads and loads of people all over the world. You are. I take credit for this at all. And we're also recognizing that the little fundamentals of life, the minerals, the fungi, the microbes, the phytoplankton, all of these little bases are things that we don't consider but are critical for us to look at and to nurture if we are to survive on this planet. So I thank you all for coming today. This has been an incredibly lively discussion, perhaps a little more lively than usual, but that's okay. And, I appreciate your coming to share your ideas with each other and to get to know each other a little better. So thank you all, and we'll see you again soon.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dale. It was excellent.
Many rivers to cross, but I still cannot find my way to the Luxor room in the Blue Zone. I don't know where I am now. I said climate restoration, yeah. It's got ocean past restoration. Yeah. gonna make your life better, baby. Because the plankton is your best friend, let me tell you. I said many rivers to cross. I just want to do an interview, man, with Paul Beckwith for Facing Futures. What are we going to talk about, Paul?
OPR.
OPR. OPR is the best thing I ever heard. Russ George is the Albert Einstein of climate, man. The Albert Einstein is here in Egypt. Cairo town is the place to rock and roll. Sharm el Sheikh, baby, I don't care what they say. We're gonna have some fun because many rivers cross. I crossed the Red Sea, baby, the Gulf of Aqaba, just to meet you. Love.